Tomato varieties for growing. What kinds of tomato varieties am I growing this year in my garden? This is Gal, the Gardening Gal, and let's see what's growing on for tomato varieties in my 2022 garden. Since it's so early in the season and the seeds are just now starting to germinate, I'll be showing you pictures of the tomato varieties and talking about what's so special about them. And a question for you. Will you grow any of these tomato varieties, or would you like to grow them? Leave a comment below and let's see what everybody likes. Meanwhile, let's get started. Black from Tula is my first one. I've been wanting to grow black from Tula when I lived in Florida, and I just never got around to it. This year I saw the seeds again and decided to take the plunge. It's a black indeterminate tomato, and the fruits are supposed to be around 8 to 10 ounces on average. Now black in this case really means more of a dark reddish brown, but I found that in general black tomatoes are very, very tasty. Black strawberry. Now black strawberry is a relatively new variety when it comes to tomatoes for growing. It had a crazy look to it from the photo on the website. The seed packet, not quite so much. But I do kind of like growing unusual varieties, and this one has a good amount of anthocyanin, that purple stuff. Anyway, it's an indeterminate tomato with cherry-sized fruits, and it's supposed to be very, very sweet. I'm crossing my fingers for this tomato variety. Krinkovic Yugoslavian. Okay. So I've been wanting to grow this for quite a few years, and I've never gotten around to this one either. But it's an indeterminate tomato that has something special going for it. This indeterminate pink tomato produces really big fruits, and the special part is this. It's supposed to be high yielding. Now plants that grow large tomatoes, a pound or more, tend to be only moderate producers, but Krinkovic Yugoslavian is supposed to be high yielding. The fact that it's also supposed to be very tasty sure does not hurt. Okay, here is Coeteau Lee. Now Coeteau Lee, again, I've been wanting to grow, and it's one that grows large tomatoes, like up to 2 pounds large. It's supposed to be a high production tomato as well. So I think that it's going to be very interesting for the size versus production. Anyway, this tomato is supposed to be quite meaty and have a nice balanced true tomato taste. I'll be interested in seeing how big of a tomato I can get out of Coeteau Lee. Dr. Wishy's Yellow. Okay, so a lot of people recommend this tomato variety for the garden. It was a toss-up though if I was going to grow Dr. Wishy's or KBX, which is Kellogg's Breakfast Potato Leaf. But since Dr. Wishy's had been sitting in my collection for 2 years, I thought I should go with Dr. Wishy's. Although it's called a yellow tomato, it's really more of a golden yellow, almost going to orange. Indeterminate, the fruits are in the 10 ounce to 1 pound for size, and it's supposed to be among the best of the yellow-orange varieties as far as taste goes. That doesn't hurt. Drushba. I grew drushba a few times when I lived in Florida, and I did find that this tomato variety was productive. This is a red indeterminate, and the tomatoes are, they're average size, somewhere between 4 to 6 ounces. If drushba was good tasting and productive in Florida, I'm really excited to try growing it here in Tennessee and seeing how much more productive it is here, because Tennessee tomatoes, they do better than Florida tomatoes. Okay, Dwarf Arctic Rose. A little tiny seed packet. Okay, I grew Dwarf Arctic Rose back in 2020 in a 5-gallon grow bag. Now the potting soil I used wasn't great, and because of where I had it in the garden, it didn't get as much attention as other tomatoes, and it got inconsistent watering. The tomatoes were tasty, although I did get a fair amount of blossom end rot, which is probably due to the growing conditions. I thought it deserved another chance in a better spot with better soil and more consistent watering. It was quite prolific back in 2020, even with a not-so-great situation, so I'm excited to see what it's going to be like when it's treated better. This is a determinate tomato variety. Halliday's Mortgage Lifter. When it comes to tomato varieties for growing in the garden, I hear a lot of people grow Mortgage Lifter. What a lot of people don't know is that there are several varieties of Mortgage Lifter. I'm trying Halliday's instead of the more commonly grown Radiator Charlie's Mortgage Lifter. Halliday's is a pink indeterminate with fruits in the about 1 pound range. I'm all for trying varieties that are less commonly grown, like Halliday's. New Big Dwarf. I've grown this tomato variety in 2020 and 2021, and I didn't have great luck either year. Well, I'll try one more time this year in a good spot in my raised bed. Now, to be fair, New Big Dwarf did not have a great location either of the past 2 years. Why am I trying again? This determinate tomato is supposed to have large, as in up to 1 pound, fruits with a rich tomato taste, great production, and early season. Well, maybe third time's the charm for this one, for New Big Dwarf. Orange Hat. I'm growing this inside over the winter, and I was pleasantly surprised at this miniature tomato plant. Now, this is an orange determinate plant that only grows to be about 6 or so inches tall, and I thought it would be a great tomato variety to grow in my new greenstock vertical garden that I am waiting to get. The tomatoes for Orange Hat are an average cherry tomato in size, and they are very sweet because I just had my first one today. Oh, it was good. That's why I decided to go ahead and add this to my outside garden as well as what I'm growing inside. Anyway, although it's a determinate, I found that my indoor plants are putting out another flush of flowers as well. So, excited to see what this does in the garden. Pink Fang. I'm a sucker for weird-looking tomato varieties in my garden, and Pink Fang falls into this category. It's an elongated pear shape, and it's supposed to be very meaty and sweet. I plan to make and put up a lot of tomato sauce this summer, and since this fruit grows up to 6 inches long, it should make plenty of sauce. Another of my tomato varieties for growing that falls into the unusual category is Prairie Fire. Okay, it's an indeterminate tomato with striped oval fruit that is smaller, around maybe a large cherry in size. It's supposed to be very, very sweet, and the plant itself is supposed to be compact, taller than a dwarf, but shorter than a standard indeterminate. It's a size that fits in well with my 2020 garden plans. Purple Rain. So, this dwarf tomato variety grows to be about 3 feet tall, and it's a determinate, but it bears a decent size, like right around 8 ounces of dark pink, also known as purple, meaty, delicious fruits. It'll be interesting to see if this dwarf tomato variety in the garden lives up to its taste claims, so I'll be keeping my eye on Purple Rain. Red Robin. Okay, I grew Red Robin in 2020 in a 1-gallon grow bag, and it was a real trooper. This tomato variety for growing took everything I threw at it, and it kept on growing and producing tomatoes. Red Robin is a very dwarf determinate cherry tomato variety. It only got to be about a foot tall. After it produced its crop in 2020, I meant to retire it, so I quit watering, quit feeding, and putting it in a spot where it was very hot on concrete. I meant to put it on the compost pile and just forgot about it. Anyway, lo and behold, after all this bad treatment, it went ahead and started blooming again. Oh, like I said, it's a real trooper. Anyway, I wanted to grow it again last year, but none of my seeds sprouted. This year I brought fresh seeds from a different vendor, and I'm happy to say that they have already sprouted. Way to go, Red Robin! Okay, I love multiflora tomatoes, and I've been wanting to grow Riesentraub for many years. So, what is a multiflora? If you remember my videos that show my Storm and Norman tomato plants, you saw what kind of enormous yield that one multiflora plant can give. Riesentraub is an indeterminate red tomato bearing cherry-sized fruits. They are roundish and some have a little point on the blossom end. Let's see how this multiflora compares to Storm and Norman. Will it grow and bear less or more? Rosella Crimson. This is another of the dwarf tomato varieties for growing in the garden. Its fruit is pink, average size between 4 to 10 ounces, and it's supposed to be able to compete with pink brandy wine for taste. Now, I don't know if this is supposed to be determinate or indeterminate variety, but I guess I'll find out. Not to mention to find out if it really can compete with pink brandy wine for flavor. Sweet Scarlet Dwarf. This one was an accidental seed sowing. I meant to grab another tomato seed variety packet, but I grabbed Sweet Scarlet Dwarf. Oops. As the name implies, it's a red tomato, and from what I can tell, an indeterminate dwarf. The tomatoes are supposed to be medium to large, 6 ounces to maybe a pound, and among the tastiest of the dwarf tomato varieties. I will definitely be interested to find out if it lives up to its claims of taste. Tennessee Britches. In going through my seed packets, I spied that this pink tomato variety is supposed to bear huge, as in up to 40-ounce size fruits. The indeterminate plants get pretty big though, so I need to take that into consideration when deciding exactly where to plant it in the garden. Now, plants that bear huge tomatoes tend to be somewhat shy in bearing, so the number and quality of the fruits, that's going to be a determination if I grow it again in the future. But I sure would love to grow a 3-pound fruit. 30-pound fruit would be interesting too, right? All right. Okay, so we've got Tennessee suited next. It's a dwarf plant, probably an indeterminate from the description of being a vigorous dwarf. The color's what drew me in. It's supposed to be purple with green stripes. Medium-sized tomatoes are supposed to be in the 4 to 10 ounce size, and which is kind of medium. The taste is supposed to be balanced and delicious. Okay. Rounding out the list is watermelon beefsteak. Watermelon beefsteak is the last of my tomato varieties for growing in the garden. It's a pink, I think, indeterminate, which is actually supposed to be fairly compact, only about 4 to 5 feet tall. The tomatoes themselves weigh from 1 to 2 pounds, and it's supposed to be very sweet. And I am definitely looking forward to this sweet treat. So there you have it, the tomato varieties for growing in my garden this year. Let me know what your favorite is in the comments, and also please consider subscribing. Thanks for watching, and I appreciate it. This is Gail, a gardening gal, saying thanks for staying with me this long, and keep on growing. Bye.